This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 268. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about painting, modeling, and working experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Oh, could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, we got a crazy blast from the past for Games Workshop's made to order, and we got a little bit more clarification and examples of how Games Workshop is going to be handling Warhammer 40,000 Detachments in 11th edition. And it's a little bit spicy. But you know what else is spicy? The website you'll be able to make yourself using today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated, optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons, all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a 14-day free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in head first, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I've always kind of had my eye on the Imperial Guard. I've played against them a lot. Sean has an Imperial Guard army, and I've played against those tanks so many times. I do think that Imperial Guard is sometimes slightly not fun to play against in 40k. I've played against Imperial Knights, I've played against like Horde armies, and there's definitely some times where the game just kind of feels different. But Imperial Guard, just super tanky tanks that can do a heck of a lot of damage. Rogue Eldorans with their improbable number of guns that are all pretty darn good. It can definitely feel like an uphill battle, especially when like the Imperial Guard player barely has to move their figures. If they can just get onto like a couple of objectives and then just castle up, that's the sort of game you're in for. But I do love the Imperial Guard, like the ideal of an Imperial Guard army. When you flip to the pretty picture section of a codex and you see like Games Workshop's romanticized idea of what a collection of Imperial Guard looks like, I do really enjoy that. A whole bunch of little squishy squads of infantry, Ogren and Bullygrin, couple of command squads, maybe just a smattering of powerful tanks, maybe one nice basilisk in the background just to throw a couple of indirect fire shots that usually miss but sometimes hit and do a lot of damage. Oh, early 10th edition, like when the actual game launched, and basilisks, and there was basilisks, and then you could have a basilisk without the treads that was even cheaper to take in game, and your giant cannon, it wasn't a demolisher cannon, it was an earthshaker cannon. It could be hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s for indirect fire. Like, thank goodness that Games Workshop nerfed it, so that now indirect fire only ever hits on 4s, which feels fairer. It always starts to feel unfair when you spam it, but hitting on 4s just in general seems to have been enough to make most people kind of move away from indirect fire and not want to include it very much in lists. And also, you pay a lot for the privilege of getting to shoot with those weapons. Like, just a nice, take a little bit of everything guard army does look really interesting. I don't know, I've always liked the Tallarn, but then there's also the Vostroyan Firstborn, the big Russian hat Imperial Guard regiment. I've always had a soft spot for these guys. I've never seen them in person. I've been to a lot of like secondhand Warhammer shops at conventions, and I've seen a lot of old school Warhammer, but I've never actually seen Vostroyan Firstborn in person. I don't know if they're just extra popular and so people don't resell those, but I see a lot of Mordian, I see a lot of like old school Cadians and Catachan, I see a lot of Tallarn Desert Raiders, but I never see Vostroyan Firstborn just kicking around in people's collections. But in the near future, as this article says, the Vostroyan Firstborn are coming back as made to order. In the article, I don't believe it says how these guys are going to be made, if they're going to be metal or resin. I really hope that they're metal, like as good of metal as they would have been back when they were a normal thing that you could buy on the Games Workshop web store. If they're resin, I hope that they're as good as like modern Forge World resin, because historically Forge World resin is not very good. Like, just the casting quality of their kits was really poor. Although some of the newer Forge World stuff that I've bought in, like for Necromunda, has been fine. It does seem crazy that the best Games Workshop can do is fine after decades of producing resin miniatures, where like every other company that I buy resin miniatures from that are way smaller than Games Workshop they're like nearly perfect, and Games Workshop is still struggling to get to acceptable with their resin cast. So I kinda would hope for metal. But the Vostroyan Firstborn are really cool. I like their big long Laslock rifles with the attached bayonet, the big hats, the big coats, all of the different accoutrements that's on their armor, the little like feathers that are stuck in the hats of some of these guys. It is really, really intriguing. The tricky thing with the Games Workshop made to order with the different types of Imperial Guard regiments is you kind of do either go big or go home, because like it's not going to happen again, or the Games Workshop doesn't do anything to let us know when stuff like this is going to happen. So it's either buy the Vostroyan Firstborn army of your dreams right now, or that might be it. And I don't know, they are really cool, but are they cool enough? And then there's also just the weirdness of Imperial Guard, where there's Cadians, Catachan, and then there's the Krieg. And they all are kind of different in game. Like, they each have their own heavy weapon team that has a slightly different rule. They each have their own infantry that has a slightly different rule. And I don't know, Guard players, let me know in the comments. Does anybody care? Like, do you just run your preferred flavor of Guardsmen and then just tell your opponent, oh, by the way, all of these guys are Kriegers so that they have the come back to life rule, or all of these guys are Cadians and so they can do whatever it is Cadians do. Like, or all of these guys are Catachan so they can have more flamers than you would think. Or do people very specifically say, like, okay, I want one squad of Cadians with an attached Cadian command squad for all of the plasma pistols, and then I want 2 squads of Kriegers for the come back to life mechanic, and then I want 1 squad of Catachan with the flamethrowers to like go in a Chimera so that they can shoot out the top with the flamethrower. Like, do people very specifically make sure that they have the appropriate miniatures that are referencing the appropriate rules in the game? I don't really know. It does seem crazy that you have the exact same thing, but they're not quite the exact same thing. Like, only the Krieg heavy weapon team gets to have the flamethrower like heavy weapon teams that are very good, where everybody else is stuck with the regular autocannon, bolter, las cannon, or the mortar team. There's a little bit of weirdness to Guard right now, because most every other faction in the game, you can run whatever models that you can buy from Games Workshop as your specific color of army. But the Imperial Guard is a little weird in that you sorta can't. I would assume that most people would be completely fine with a Vostroyan Firstborn army if you just explained or made it really, really abundantly clear what is happening. Like, if you just put together some Vostroyan Firstborn heavy weapon teams with big flamethrower static guns, I think people would get that those are the Krieg guys, because only the Krieg guys get to have the flamethrowers. But if they were the las cannon, then there definitely would be some confusion on, well, is this a Cadian las cannon team, a Krieg las cannon team, or a Catachan las cannon team? It is weird. Imperial Guard is really weird in that way. But man, these miniatures, like, they're so weird, they're so wacky, they're so different to anything else in the Imperial Guard, because historically Imperial Guard is basically based on the Starship Troopers. Like, they're just classic Space Marines. Or not Space Marines, but they're Marines in space. They're just space warriors. Where these guys are like a weird, fictional, like futuristic version of something from modern Earth. This is the kind of Imperial Guard that I do really enjoy. And these guys would look really good, like sticking out of the top of that new Hippogriff ATV, the truck thing that can have transport capacity 12, and is for some reason the exact same points cost as a Chimera. And so it's weird that Games Workshop made it the same points as a Chimera because it's so similar to a Chimera that all of a sudden I feel like people aren't going to want to buy it, because if it's almost exactly the same thing as the model that people already own, like there's not a huge incentive to get your hands on it, where if it was a smidge cheaper than the Chimera, just a smidge, I feel like it would have all of a sudden much more draw. Like if it was, I don't know, a Tarox Prime is, or a Tarox is like 65 points, like it's incredibly cheap. It's weird that Imperial Guard has so many options for very, very cheap transports. And then you're transporting a very cheap squad inside of the very cheap transport. So Imperial Guard is kind of wonderfully weird and wacky. But the Vostroyan Firstborn are coming back to a Warhammer website to pre-order near you. The flag dude who's shirtless with the flag of like an angelic emperor fighting off a demon skeleton. There's some really fun stuff in here. And just the long Laslock rifles. Man, these guys are a ton of fun. All just hand sculpted with like the back of a toothpick. I like these guys a lot. They're very cool. And a very unique thing. I know Games Workshop teased that eventually down the line, I think they said in 3 years, they're going to come out with the Iron Legion, the guys who really like fighting the orcs. Steel Legion, which is fine. Steel Legion is cool. Like, I get why people love the Steel Legion. They're famous for Commissar Yarrick, but they're kind of just trench coat, gas mask guys again, where these guys are different. Like, there's no upgrade frame you can make for just regular Cadian shock troops to turn them into these guys. These are some real weird, wacky things, and I like the weird wackiness. I don't know, I'm kind of mulling over if I want to go that hard into Imperial Guard. I don't know if I would enjoy playing the Imperial Guard that much. I already have been enjoying the spit out of my Black Templars. I've got my Kroot up and running. I've been playing a bunch of games with my Kroot, and I'm playing another game tonight. I'm really enjoying them. Actually having an absolute horde of infantry models that can kind of take a punch with the 5-up invulnerable save against shooting and then the stealth on everything. Like, it's really fun to play. And I do kind of want to get back into my Dark Eldar, and then maybe Death Guard down the line if I can actually find time to paint up a whole bunch of regular Plague Marines. But one thing that I am looking forward to with 11th edition is the way that the detachments are changing. In the launch video, they teased that detachments are going to be a little bit different than they are right now, where there's going to be kind of build-a detachments, where detachments will have like a cost 1, 2, or 3, and you can put together up to a 3 cost of detachment rules that you can kind of put together and assemble into your perfect detachment, which does sound like a really cool system. And my brain immediately went to, ooh, this is really cool, because Games Workshop is gonna have to go through all like 100 detachments that exist in the game and figure out which ones are the really bad ones, and those are gonna become the 1 value detachments. I think that that's probably wishful thinking. I don't think that they'll do that now. I think they'll probably just say every detachment that we've written is a 3 value detachment, but we're gonna write some new ones that are specifically less. Like, they do less things, and those are gonna be your 1 and your 2 cost detachments. Which is a little heartbreaking, because I think some of the really bad detachments are gonna stay really bad. And as a Black Templar player, I'm a connoisseur of bad detachments, because all of the Black Templar detachments are not very good. And so in the article that came out recently, they gave a little tease of a detachment, another detachment for the Black Templar, which is kind of interesting. The Anointed Champion. This is for specifically 1 miniature, and this is for the Emperor's Champion. And so this is probably gonna be what cheap detachments are like. They're very specific in what they buff. And so this is literally for just 1, the Emperor's Champion. This detachment lets the Emperor's Champion reroll 1 hit and 1 wound, which is very good because he has a once per game devastating wound. Although in this detachment, it doesn't have to be once per game. Guiding Omens. At the start of the battle, you can pick up to 3 of these 6 things. And there's a bunch of these things are pretty darn good, but I would say the best one is +2 attacks on his melee weapon, plus free heroic intervention, and there's another really spicy one that he could have. Oh yeah, and then he can have devastating wounds against character units. So usually he can have devastating wounds once per game if you pop it, but now he can just have devastating wounds always against character units, which is the thing that you want him going into. Character units tend to be very expensive, like they tend to be the big dangerous thing in your opponent's army, and so him just being the thing to go in and clear those out does seem really, really good. Emperor's Champion right now, he's a pretty darn good character. He's very powerful. I've struggled with him sometimes in game because I don't necessarily want to attach him to really, really good things like my Sword Brethren or a big brick of just regular Black Templar Crusaders. And so I've kind of found having him attached to 5 regular Assault Intercessors is fine. Almost always, as I make my way across the board, the 5 Assault Intercessors will just die. But that's okay because really all I need is for him to make it into combat with the thing that I'm trying to make him do, and then just really hope that he doesn't whiff. Historically, in my games, and I've played a lot of games with my Black Templar, Helbrecht and Emperor's Champion do amazing or nothing. Where my 5 Sword Brethren attached with a Castellan and Marshal, which is the most expensive but most powerful thing that I can make in the Black Templar, those always perform. They always do a ton of damage. They always kill a few things over the course of the game. But Helbrecht and the Emperor's Champion, they can sometimes struggle to actually get anything done. If they just happen to whiff their attacks, they're just kind of done. They're bowing out of the game. Although in this detachment, I get a whole bunch of rerolls. I get a whole bunch of extra attacks. So all of a sudden it's looking pretty darn spicy that this guy is just like, I feel like in this detachment, the Emperor's Champion is now the most powerful thing in a Black Templar army. Probably much more powerful than Helbrecht himself, which is kind of funny. But this does look interesting. And if I can attach this to something else that is also pretty good, and then maybe even something else that's pretty good, and then pick and choose the actual stratagems and enhancements that I actually want, like hopefully I would be able to build something really, really good. I think some good detachments, like there's detachments that Black Templar use, like Gladius Task Force is excellent and Bastion Task Force is really good for spamming battle line infantry. Like there's ways to play Black Templar to have them actually be strong. You just have to ignore the actual the detachments that actually have Black Templar in the name and use some of the generic Space Marine ones. I think the big problem with Black Templar right now is just our data sheets are so specific. Like our Black Templar character units, and we actually do have a lot of character units, are only allowed to attach to Black Templar infantry units. I feel like it would really open up the door to more interesting armies and just more things you'd be able to do if you could attach to just like Vanguard veteran squads, or weirdly actually everything can attach to Stern Guard veteran squads for no reason. The Games Workshop made sure that that was actually available, but all of the other melee units like Blade Guard veterans can't attach to anything in the Black Templar. And so I don't know. I do wish that Games Workshop would have another look in at the Black Templar and just, I don't know, like let Helbrecht attach to a squad of Blade Guard veteran. That would be really, really cool. But alas, he can only attach to the Black Templar version, the Sword Brethren squad. And he does enough damage himself where you probably don't need to do that, but it would be neat. And then Crusader squads can only be purchased in 10 or 20. So it's a huge points investment that is really hard to justify, especially when it's so hard to put together really valuable squads for Black Templar. I don't know. The Black Templar are in a little bit of a tricky spot, and I would like them to get another look in just to help them out just a little bit. It would be nice. Games Workshop has shown off some other interesting detachments. Like there's one specifically for the new Landspeeder that is coming in the box, in the 11th edition starter box, where Landspeeders can have a shoot and scoot. And they can also be able to rapid ingress turn 1. Like that does seem really good and really powerful. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the Landspeeder. I don't like storm speeders at all. They're way too big, and they arguably don't, like, the point of them is to tag enemy units in the shooting phase and let the rest of my army be better at shooting that specific thing. But they're kind of points intensive and really big and hard to hide, and so it's hard to use them really, really well. But the new storm speeder coming out does look to be quite a bit physically smaller, and with a shoot and scoot. Like, all of a sudden, like, it's just this little thing that you can have running around the board, mostly hiding, but just peeking out from behind cover for the absolute moments that it needs to, and just doing a little bit of chip damage. That seems like a more fun unit. It's almost like a Primaris Outrider ATV, which is a pretty slick little unit for, I think it's 65 points in game. It might even be 60 points in game. It's very, very cheap. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's got like a multi-melta and a couple of spawns and bolters, but if you're cheap enough and you're simple enough, you actually can be pretty darn useful in the game, where something like a Storm Speed or Hail Strike is a little bit more of a, I'm planning my whole turn around this unit because it gives me like +1 AP against one target in my opponent's army. It gives me like baby Oath of Moment. And so, I don't know, I'm not a super big fan of those, but if it's just a cheap and cheerful unit that can run around the board, that does seem a little bit more fun. I'm very much looking forward to how Games Workshop shakes up the game for 11th edition. 10th edition, pretty darn good. This is the most like an actual game that Warhammer 40,000 has ever felt. So I do think just some small tweaks and some small alterations will really get it into a super, super great spot where it can really just cook. I would say it's almost as good as some of the amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. On EonsOfBattle.com, we are restocked on all our excellent hobby goodies, Great Hide Studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we've got terrain. This best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. New in May, we have created the Cyber City, a set of terrain perfect for any fast-paced war game. These beautiful gleaming buildings are the picture of future affluence, ready to be fought over and on top of. These pieces were designed to give plenty of line-of-sight blocking terrain, with lots of room on top for miniatures to stand on. And with a stacking system, you can build your boards up into the air with lots of catwalks and staircases to let you battle in the third dimension. To sprinkle around the city, there's also some sci-fi accessories like line-of-sight blocking hologram projectors, rooftop doors and computer terminals, crates and snack machines. Everything a future battlefield needs. This set of terrain was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. I'm really looking forward to 11th edition. I have been enjoying 10th edition a lot. I've gotten tons and tons of games in, and I finally feel like I've got a decent understanding of the rules. Like in my more recent games of 40k, I feel like when I win, it's a little bit my fault. Like I'm actually doing things to give myself a better chance of success. Definitely, I still struggle in certain matchups, and boy, oh boy, if I just start to lose units really, really fast, really, really early in the game, it can definitely feel like an uphill battle to recover from something like that. But I do feel like I'm actually starting to get my hands, get a hang of the game that is Warhammer 40,000. And so what that means is it's time to switch from playing the things that I'm starting to get good at, and then try out some new armies so that I can go back to being bad at the game as I learn some new stuff. I don't know, I've been having a really, really fun time. Thanks for watching.